Where do you buy your groceries? Well, if Loblaws has their way, it won't be at a Shoppers Drug Mart. From the stores to the courts, the fight between retailers over just who has the right to sell what is heating up in Canada. Rick Pennycook joins us now. He's the president of Lakeshore Group. Good evening.
Good evening. Retailers are going to war with each other, and it has to be, I'm going to make a guess here, that there's no differentiation anymore. I can't tell the difference between a Sam's Club and a Costco.
You're absolutely right. The lines of what stores are carrying are blurring at an ever-increasing rate. And so when you walk into Home Depot now, you can get bottled water, small electric appliances, some artwork. It's incredible, and that's what's starting these battles. Traditionally, mall developments had tenants with leases where they could control what other tenants in the development sell, and that's not working anymore. Those leases are sort of from another era. And now you really have to change those leases around to accommodate how quickly a retailer will move into a new category of merchandise.
So the court battles that are going on has to do with the kinds of leases that exist from before. In other words, it's not new leases being written, but it's the old ones that need...
Well, I think the leases are still written the same way for now, and I think these court battles are going to change that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But an interesting case in Nova Scotia, where Sobeys, the supermarket chain, was forced to rip out its pharmacy because in the same development, Shoppers Drug Mart had a restrictive covenant that said we're going to be the only pharmacy in the development.
But let me guess, in the future, Sobeys is never going to sign a lease that has that kind of a restricted covenant in it. Let's take an extreme example. You want Walmart to be your lead tenant. You go to Walmart down in Bentonville and say, listen, I don't want you to sell this or that. They're going to look you in the eye and say, we don't care what you want.
Have a nice mall.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's right, but that's the difficulty that developers are having right now because of this blurring of the lines.
So essentially, developers are having their head squeezed right now by the large power players in retail. Is that really what's going on?
Well, they're not necessarily large. I mean, if you look at retailers that we're all familiar with right now, the Gap, you'd think it's a clothing store. Well, the Gap is now selling cosmetics. Canadian Tire is now selling clothing. And they've announced that they're going to really mesh the Mark's Work Warehouse component of their business into one store. And so when these changes happen, the leases don't follow that, and they have, and retailers have to do that.
Is it realistic to think, though, that real estate lawyers can establish retailers' strategy? Which is what
I think the real estate lawyers think that they can, but I mean that ultimately the consumer will be the determinant of what happens. But right now, retailers are fighting for their lives, and if someone walks through the door, they are going to try to keep them there any way possible. And if that means selling new products that have a complete disconnect from their main line, they're going to do it.
So let's have you speculate. 3 years from now, what does that look like?
3 years from now, we're going to have cost awards that are huge. And in 5 years, I think it'll shake out. Leases will be completely different. They'll be shorter to allow retailers to change with the times.
When you say cost awards, Shoppers Drug Mart is going to lose this battle? They'll have to stop selling food?
It depends. It'll go on a case-by-case basis. These are not battles that Sobeys is saying shoppers can't sell groceries across Canada. These are in individual malls across the country. So the fight will be different depending on how the lease was written in every place.
And shouldn't just be suing the its landlord rather than the
landlord
retailer?
is always going to be a party to it. They will obviously want the landlord to enforce the conditions of the lease.
Yeah.
But they will have to enjoin the tenant as well, because the tenant is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, and it's affecting their business.
So what does the mall of the future look like?
I don't know, and if I wish I did know what it looked like. But we've seen power centers grow now, and I think that there's still going to be another change there as well.
Could this mean that in the future, large box players like, let's take a Walmart and its Sam's Club, bypass the whole development player and buy their own facilities, develop their own facilities, and say, look, this is the way of the world from now on?
Well, that's right, and that is happening now. Loblaws buys most of their real estate, but the other players in a mall development don't. So it's not just a fight with the big players, the Sobeys of the world and the Walmarts, but other people are going to start getting dragged into this now.
Let me ask you about a specific name as an investor. When I see these mega battles form, where does a player like a Zellers, where are they going to be in 5 years? Are they going to zero?
I hope not. They really have a tough go right now. They're getting squeezed by the Walmarts of this world.
Can you see a scenario? Can you see any scenario where they could survive in the Canadian landscape as it's playing out now?
Oh, I think so. But they have to change their merchandising focus completely.
Let's talk about some of the companies that stake their business and their future for investors on the health of the mall. A lot of REITs get their cash flow from malls. Are some of those REITs bad investments right now? If what you're saying is that malls may be at risk?
No, I don't think so. The interesting thing with the power center emergence, some old malls now have the opportunity to revitalize themselves and get some unusual anchor tenants in, and they're often in very good locations, real estate wise. So there's still a lot of underlying value in malls. So I don't think REITs are going away anytime soon or are in trouble. They're just going to keep up with the times and follow where the retailers are going.
So if you're an investor right now and you're trying to figure out how to play this, and I'm trying to pick names here because I don't see a lot of standalone Canadian entities being that successful in the big box retail game. And it takes me back to Hudson Bay again.
Well, that's right. I mean, it is tough, and I would hate to see Zellers go down. They've got strong management. I think they can turn it around, but it's going to have to be a radical shift. I don't think they have a lot of time to play anymore. The pressure from Walmart and new retailers coming in, even some German retailers like Lidl you may have heard about, scoping out the Canadian scene, another discounter. You've really got to change shift.
So if you own the equity in Hudson's Bay, or you own the debt, more importantly for some of us, this has to be a concern, the fate of Zellers.
Oh, it surely is a concern, but I think Zellers is underlyingly very strong, and but they've got a lot of work ahead of them to do.
And on this issue, maybe sort of flying under the radar in terms of the fight between the retailers over their leases. I mean, Zellers is doing pretty much what it's always done. It's not going to be involved in one of these tussles.
It might have to. It might have to.
It might have to start selling Wonder Bread.
That's right.
Just a few seconds left. The introduction of the Sam's stores.
Yes.
Is that going to have much of an effect on the Costco's that already exist here in Canada?
Not a devastating effect, but there's probably going to be a bit of a bloodbath, which will be great for the consumer because the prices, which are already unbelievably low at Costco, are probably going to get driven down somewhat. The interesting thing is they're both membership clubs, so they have to vie for that patron. And people, I don't think, are going to belong to both. It's going to be one or the other. So that'll be an interesting play to watch.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Rick Pennycook, president of Lakeshore Group. Stay with us. It's Play of the Day time next.